Ethan Cole had always been fascinated by impossible things. He worked as an engineer in a secret underground facility, where scientists tried to open a doorway between worlds. For years he had helped design the quantum gate, a glowing ring of metal and energy that pulsed with light like a heartbeat. It was supposed to be a small step for science, a harmless test using drones. No one expected that a single human would cross through it by mistake. That morning was quiet. The air smelled of metal and electricity. Ethan stood beside the humming machine, checking the control panel. "Ready to power up?" his colleague asked. Ethan nodded, tired but hopeful. The machine began to glow brighter, the center swirling with white mist. "Stabilizing field," he said softly, eyes focused on the monitor. Everything seemed perfect. But then the readings began to spike. Warning lights flashed red. The machine roared, the floor trembled, and a sudden wave of force hit him like a storm. "Shut it down," someone shouted. But it was too late. The portal exploded in light. Ethan felt himself pulled forward, every cell in his body stretching and burning. For a moment he thought he was dying, then everything went silent. He landed hard on the ground, coughing, his ears ringing. The air felt strange, warm, sweet, filled with a scent like flowers after rain. When he opened his eyes, the world around him didn't make sense. The sky above was painted with soft purple clouds and twin suns glowing side by side. Strange silver trees shimmered in the distance, and the ground beneath him sparkled like crushed glass. Ethan slowly got up, his heart pounding. "Where am I?" he whispered. His voice sounded small under that vast alien sky. He looked around and saw glowing crystal structures rising in the distance, towers made of light and glass, floating gently above the ground. It was like a dream, something too beautiful to be real, but the ache in his body told him it was no dream. Suddenly a shadow moved. He turned quickly, his breath catching in his throat. A figure stood a few steps away, tall, graceful, and glowing faintly in the sunlight. It was a woman. Her hair shimmered like silver silk, and her eyes were bright and unearthly, like two small moons. Her skin had a faint luminescent glow, smooth and pale like moonstone. Ethan froze. She wasn't human. The woman tilted her head slightly, studying him with calm curiosity. When she spoke, her voice was like soft music, though he couldn't understand a word. It was a language unlike anything he had heard before, melodic, distant, beautiful. I don't understand," Ethan said nervously, raising his hand slowly. "I mean no harm." She took a careful step closer, her gaze steady. Around her neck hung a glowing crystal pendant, pulsing in rhythm with her voice. She touched it gently, and the light grew stronger. Then she spoke again, and this time her words reached his mind in clear English. "Human, you're not supposed to be here." Ethan's breath caught. The fact that she called him human confirmed what he already feared. He wasn't on Earth anymore. "I didn't mean to come here," he said, his voice shaking. "It was an accident. The machine, it malfunctioned. I don't even know where here is." The alien woman looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she turned slightly, gesturing toward the shining city beyond the hills. "You are in Valora," she said softly, "and your arrival will not go unnoticed." Before Ethan could reply, he heard movement, soft footsteps, many of them. A group of armored figures appeared from behind the trees, their weapons glowing faintly. They looked half human, half ethereal, their eyes sharp and bright. The woman raised her hand quickly. "Do not harm him," she commanded in her language. The soldiers froze, but their eyes stayed fixed on Ethan, wary and suspicious. She turned back to him. "Come," she said. "You must not remain here. My people will see you as a threat." Ethan hesitated. He didn't know her. He didn't know this world. But something in her tone, calm, strong, yet strangely kind, made him trust her. "My name is Ethan," he said quietly. Who are you?" She looked at him, her expression softening just a little. "I am Sarai," she replied. "Princess of Valora." The words hit him like thunder. A princess? Of an alien world? Before he could ask anything else, She motioned for him to follow as the guards surrounded them, leading the way toward the glowing city. The path shimmered under their feet. Ethan looked back once at the violet horizon, realizing how far he truly was from home. He whispered to himself, voice trembling between awe and fear, "What have I done?" As the suns began to set, casting silver light over the strange land, he followed the alien princess into her world, unaware that this single step would change his life forever. Ethan followed the glowing path through the strange, floating city, surrounded by guards who watched his every move. The air shimmered faintly, filled with soft energy that tingled against his skin. Everywhere he looked, he saw beauty beyond imagination. Crystal towers stretching toward the violet sky, golden bridges that floated with no visible support, and plants that glowed gently like breathing stars. Yet despite its beauty, the place felt heavy with silence. People stared as he passed, their eyes filled with both fear and curiosity. Princess Sarai walked ahead, her silver hair flowing in the soft breeze, her presence commanding yet calm. Ethan noticed the way others bowed slightly as she passed. Even among these elegant beings, she stood out, radiant, graceful, and utterly unapproachable. But when she turned her head slightly to check if he was keeping up, he saw something human in her eyes. Worry, perhaps even guilt. They entered a tall structure that looked like it was carved from pure glass. The interior was filled with soft light and strange symbols floated in the air. It reminded Ethan of a cathedral mixed with a laboratory. Sarai gestured for him to wait, and she spoke quietly with one of the guards in her musical language. The guard hesitated, glanced at Ethan, then bowed deeply before leaving. Finally, Sarai faced him again. "You are safe here, human," she said, her voice calm but distant. "No harm will come to you while I decide what must be done." Ethan nodded uncertainly. "I appreciate that. I just need to find a way back. My people, they'll think I'm dead." Sarai's expression softened slightly. "Your arrival caused great disturbance in our energy fields. The council will demand answers. They will not believe you came by accident," he frowned. "Council? They rule Valora beside me," she explained. "But they are cautious. Long ago, your kind opened the first portals. The result was war. Since then, the gateways were sealed forever." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Wait, humans were here before?" Sarai nodded slowly. "Centuries ago. Their greed poisoned the skies and nearly destroyed the balance of our worlds. We closed the rift. We swore never to open it again." Ethan felt a heavy ache inside. He wasn't part of that history, but the guilt still stung. "I didn't mean to break that promise," he said quietly. "It was an accident." Sarai studied him closely, her glowing eyes softening. "Perhaps, but accidents carry consequences." There was silence for a while. Ethan stood by a window, staring at the floating gardens outside. The view was breathtaking. Trees of light, rivers that shone like molten silver. Yet he felt the weight of loneliness pressing on his chest. He was in another world with no way home, surrounded by beings who saw him as a threat. Sarai approached him quietly. "You are far from everything you know. This world will not be kind to you. But if your words are true, I will speak for you before the council." Ethan turned to her, gratitude and confusion mixing in his heart. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Her gaze lingered on him for a moment. "Because I can see truth in your eyes," she said softly. "And because you remind me of something we lost long ago, hope." Her words hit him deeply. For a moment he forgot she was alien, that her skin glowed and her voice carried power. In that instant she felt human. That night Sarai gave him a room within the palace. It was made of transparent walls that shimmered with light. He lay on a soft, glowing surface that acted like a bed. He couldn't sleep. The moons outside, 2 of them, bathed everything in pale silver light. He stared at the ceiling, replaying everything in his head. He had crossed universes. He had met an alien princess, and now his fate rested in her hands. In the quiet of the night he heard faint music, soft, sorrowful, drifting through the palace halls. It was Sarai singing in her language. Even without understanding the words, Ethan could feel her sadness. It was a voice full of weight, a burden of leadership, loneliness, and something deeper she hid behind her royal grace. The next morning she returned to him. Her expression was serious, but her tone was gentle. "The council will meet soon," she said. "They will decide if you can stay long enough to repair your portal, or if they will send you away by force." Ethan swallowed hard. "And you? What do you think they'll do?" Sarai hesitated. "They fear what they do not understand. You will need to prove that you are not like the humans of the past." He nodded slowly. "Then I'll do whatever it takes." She looked at him a moment longer, as if trying to read his heart. "Your courage is unusual, human. I hope it is not a mistake to trust you." For the first time, Ethan smiled faintly. "You said your name was Sarai, right? Then trust me, princess. I didn't come here to bring harm. I just want to go home." But deep down, as their eyes met under the soft glow of the palace light, a quiet feeling began to grow in his chest. A pull, faint, but undeniable. It wasn't just fear or awe anymore. It was something warmer, something he didn't want to name yet. And as she turned away, her silver hair catching the morning light, Sarai whispered softly, "We shall see. Ethan of Earth, we shall see." Days passed, and Ethan began to learn the rhythm of life in Valora. The palace was like something out of a dream. Walls of living crystal that responded to touch, gardens that floated in midair, and halls where light itself seemed to sing. Yet, despite the beauty, there was a quiet tension in the air. Everywhere he went, eyes followed him. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with fear or dislike. Princess Sarai remained his only bridge to this new world. She visited him often, guiding him through the palace and showing him their ways. Her calm presence gave him a strange sense of peace even when he felt lost. The crystal pendant around her neck glowed faintly whenever she spoke with him, translating her words into a language he could understand. One evening, she took him to a vast balcony that overlooked the entire city. Below, rivers of light flowed through the streets and the air shimmered with energy. "This is Valora's heart," she said softly. "Our power flows from the living crystal beneath the city. Without it, our world would fade." Ethan listened, fascinated. "It's beautiful, like something from a dream." Sarai looked at him, a faint smile touching her lips. "You see beauty where my people see duty." "That is rare," he chuckled lightly. "Maybe humans need to look for beauty, because our world isn't as perfect as this." Her smile faded slightly. "Perfection comes with a price, Ethan. We have peace, yes, but also fear. We fear change. We fear mistakes, and you are both." Her words struck deep. He turned toward her, surprised. "Me? A mistake?" She met his eyes. "No, but your arrival reminds us that the past can return. The council sees danger where I see possibility." For a while they stood in silence, watching the twin suns sink beyond the horizon. The sky turned soft blue and gold, and the air filled with glowing dust that looked like tiny stars. Ethan couldn't take his eyes off it. It was the most peaceful sight he had ever seen. Then he glanced at Sarai. Her face glowed in the light, her silver eyes reflecting the setting suns. For the first time he realized how lonely she looked despite her grace. She was a ruler, surrounded by people yet alone. He wondered how often anyone dared to speak to her like an equal. "Do you ever get tired of being a princess?" he asked quietly. She blinked as if the question caught her off guard. "Tired?" She looked down, then whispered, "Every day, but I cannot show it. My people must believe I am strong, even when I am not." Ethan's chest tightened. "Back home, people think leaders should never show weakness. But I think strength isn't about hiding pain. It's about feeling it, and still standing." Sarai looked at him then, really looked. Something in his words softened her expression, melting the cold distance she always carried. "You speak like someone who understands," she said softly. "I've lost people," he admitted. "Family, friends, gone because of accidents I couldn't stop. Maybe that's why I build things, to fix what I can. Her eyes shimmered faintly. You build to heal, that is. Human. Their conversation lingered in the air like soft music. For the first time, Sarai laughed, a small, genuine sound that surprised even her. You are strange, Ethan of Earth, she said. No fear, no anger, only hope, he smiled. Guess that's what keeps us alive. From that day onward, something changed between them. Sarai no longer kept him at a distance. She invited him to walk with her through the gardens of light, where flowers floated and whispered like living voices. She listened when he spoke about Earth, its oceans, its stars, its struggles. And in return, she told him about Valora's history, its victories and its scars. At night, they sat near the great crystal core that powered the palace. Its hum filled the air like a heartbeat. She showed him how to touch it carefully, how to feel its energy. It responds to emotion, she explained. Our world is alive and it listens. When he placed his hand against the glowing surface, the crystal flickered gently, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Sarai watched in wonder. It accepts you, she whispered. That should not be possible. Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe it knows I mean no harm. Sarai looked away, but he noticed the faint color rising in her cheeks, something like a blush, though faint and silvery. That night, as he lay in his room, he couldn't stop thinking about her kindness, her quiet strength, her loneliness. He knew he should focus on finding a way back home, but each day with her made that thought harder to hold on to. The next morning, whispers spread through the palace. The council had summoned Sarai to discuss the human visitor. When she told Ethan, her face was calm, but her hands trembled slightly. They believe your presence weakens the balance, she said softly. They fear you will awaken the old portals again. Ethan frowned. Then what will they do? Her eyes met his. They will ask me to send you away. He felt his chest tighten. Will you? She didn't answer right away. Her gaze dropped, her voice quiet and full of emotion. I don't know, Ethan. I am a princess before I am anything else, but you have made me question what that means. Ethan stood there silent. He wanted to say something, to tell her that he didn't want to lose her, but the words wouldn't come. Outside, the two suns rose again over Valora, casting golden light across the shining towers. Inside the palace, two souls from different worlds stood facing choices neither of them were ready to make. And though they didn't know it yet, that fragile bond they had built was about to be tested in ways that would change both their worlds forever. The Council of Valora met beneath the crystal dome, a place where light flowed like water and every sound echoed like thunder. Ethan stood beside Princess Sarai, feeling the weight of dozens of glowing eyes fixed upon him. The air was heavy, filled with judgment and suspicion. The council members, tall, regal beings with glowing sigils on their foreheads, sat in a half-circle around them. Their leader, a stern elder named Kareth, rose slowly from his seat. His voice was deep and cold. Princess Sarai, your compassion blinds you. This human's arrival has already disrupted the balance of our world. His energy interferes with the core. Sarai stood tall, her voice firm. He came by accident. His presence has done no harm. He repaired our energy channels when even our best engineers failed. Deception, Kareth replied. Humanity once promised peace and their machines poisoned our lands. Do not forget the First War. Do not repeat their mistake. Ethan wanted to speak, but his throat was tight. He could feel the anger and fear radiating from the council members. He was an outsider, a living reminder of a wound this world had not yet healed. Finally, Sarai gestured for him to speak. Ethan took a deep breath. I'm not here to hurt anyone, he said, his voice trembling but honest. Where I come from, we make mistakes, many of them. But we also learn. I didn't come here with weapons or soldiers. I came here by accident, and all I've tried to do since then is help. His words hung in the air, carried softly by the echoing dome. For a moment there was silence. Then a younger counselor spoke, her tone gentler. If he repaired our conduits, perhaps he can open a portal to return home. Should that not be our goal? Kareth frowned. A portal risks the old connection between worlds. We sealed it for a reason. If the human leaves by one, others might follow. Sarai's hands tightened into fists. Then what do you propose, Kareth? To imprison him? To destroy him? Kareth's expression hardened. If it preserves Valora, yes. The word struck Ethan like a blade. He stepped back slightly, eyes wide. Sarai immediately moved in front of him. You will not touch him, she said sharply, her voice echoing across the chamber. The light in her crystal pendant flared, glowing fiercely against her skin. As long as I rule Valora, no harm will come to him. The council chamber erupted in whispers. Kareth's face darkened. You defy the will of the council? I defend what is right, she answered. Ethan watched her, his chest tight with emotion. She stood against her own people for him, a human she barely knew. He could see the risk she was taking. She was not just protecting him. She was challenging centuries of fear. After a long silence, Kareth finally spoke again. Very well. The human may remain, until we find a safe method to send him back. But hear me, Princess. If anything happens to the core, his life will be forfeit. The meeting ended, but tension hung heavy in the air. As they left the chamber, Sarai's calm mask finally cracked. She walked quickly down the empty hallway, her steps silent but fierce. Ethan followed, unsure what to say. Finally, she stopped near a glowing window that looked out over the city. They would have killed you, she whispered. If I hadn't spoken, they would have ended your life in the name of safety. Ethan stepped closer, his voice soft. You shouldn't have risked yourself for me. Her eyes turned toward him, full of quiet fire. And you would rather I let them destroy you? He shook his head. No, but I can't let you lose your place, your people's trust because of me. Sarai looked away, her hands trembling. They already doubt me. They say I am too soft, too human in my heart. She laughed bitterly. Perhaps they are right. Ethan gently reached for her hand. Being human isn't weakness, Sarai. It's caring when others tell you not to. It's fighting for what you believe in. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The glow from the city lights reflected in her silver eyes, and in them he saw exhaustion, pain, and something deeper. That night, Sarai summoned him to her private chamber. The air there was filled with soft music and the scent of blooming flowers. The council watches you now, she said quietly. You cannot leave the palace grounds. You must stay hidden, Ethan nodded. And you? What happens to you after all this? She gave a faint smile. I will face the council's judgment when the time comes. But tonight, she paused, her voice almost breaking. Tonight I wish to forget titles, duties, and fear. I only wish to be Sarai. Ethan looked at her, stunned by the raw honesty in her tone. For the first time, he saw her not as a princess or ruler, but as a woman. Lonely, burdened, yet strong. They talked for hours. About their worlds, their dreams, their doubts. He told her about rain and oceans, about laughter and loss. She told him about stars that sang, and the day she was crowned after her father's death. Their stories intertwined like threads of light, weaving something fragile but real between them. As the night deepened, Sarai stood by the window, her eyes distant. If the council forces you to leave, she whispered, I will follow you. Ethan's heart skipped. You'd abandon your world? She turned, her expression full of quiet sorrow. My world stopped feeling like home the moment you arrived. Outside, the twin moons cast silver light across them both, and in that still moment, two hearts from different worlds began to beat in rhythm. Neither spoke again that night, but both knew. Something powerful had begun. Something neither duty nor distance could easily break. The days that followed were uneasy. Ethan could feel it in the air. The tension, the whispers, the eyes that followed him wherever he went. The people of Valora spoke softly when he passed. Their glowing faces unreadable. He was still a stranger, a symbol of an old fear. But for Sarai, none of that seemed to matter. She continued to visit him, teach him their language, and show him parts of her world that no outsider had ever seen. They had grown close. Too close for the council's comfort. And deep down, Sarai knew that her defiance would soon draw danger, not from the council's words, but from the shadows that moved when light turned away. One quiet evening, the city slept under twin moons. The palace lights dimmed and the air shimmered faintly with peace. Ethan sat by his window, tracing the patterns of the stars, wondering if one of them was his home. Then suddenly the ground trembled. The air cracked with a distant explosion. A sharp alarm echoed through the halls, deep and thunderous. Ethan jumped to his feet. He could hear the sound of shattering glass, distant screams, and the clash of weapons. The calm beauty of Valora had turned into chaos in an instant. The door to his room burst open. A guard stumbled in, armor scorched. "Stay inside, human," the soldier shouted before collapsing. Ethan rushed forward, but the man was already unconscious. Fear clawed at his chest. "Sarai," he breathed. Without thinking, he ran into the corridor. The palace glowed red with warning lights. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Ethan turned corner after corner, calling her name. He found guards fighting in the great hall, figures in black armor, rebels who had sworn to destroy anything that threatened Valora's purity. Their leader shouted in the native tongue, "The human dies tonight. End the corruption!" Ethan's heart pounded. He ducked behind a pillar, grabbing a fallen guard's weapon. It was small and glowing, something like a blade made of light. He wasn't a fighter, but adrenaline burned through his veins. Then he heard her voice. "Ethan!" Sarai appeared from the smoke, her eyes glowing fiercely, her crystal pendant burning like a star. She held a curved blade of pure energy, moving with grace and fury. Every swing of her weapon sent ripples of power through the air. He ran toward her, cutting through the chaos. "Sarai, what's happening?" "Rebels!" she shouted over the noise. "They think killing you will save Valora." Before he could reply, one of the rebels lunged at her from behind. Ethan reacted without thinking. He tackled the attacker, both crashing to the floor. Pain shot through his shoulder as the man's weapon grazed him, burning his skin. Ethan gritted his teeth, wrestled the blade away, and swung it upward. The attacker fell back, defeated. Sarai turned to him, panic flashing in her eyes. "You're hurt." "I've had worse," he said, forcing a shaky smile. But the battle wasn't over. More rebels stormed the hall, their armor glowing red with rage. Sarai grabbed Ethan's hand and pulled him behind a collapsed pillar. "We need to reach the energy chamber," she said quickly. "If they destroy the core, Valora will die." They ran through smoke-filled corridors, the walls shaking with explosions. The sounds of war echoed behind them. Ethan's arm bled, but he didn't stop. All that mattered was keeping her safe. When they reached the core chamber, it was worse than they feared. The rebels had already broken through the crystal door. The heart of Valora, the massive glowing crystal that powered the entire city, was flickering weakly. A figure stood at its base, aiming a pulse weapon at it. "Stop!" Sarai shouted, stepping forward. The rebel leader turned. His face was scarred, his eyes burning with hate. "You betrayed us, Princess. You protect the creature that will destroy us all." "He is no threat," she cried.
"He saved us when your machines failed."
"He is the reason we're weak." The rebel roared and fired. Without thinking, Ethan pushed Sarai aside. The energy bolt hit him square in the chest. The pain was blinding, a wave of heat and light that stole his breath. He fell to his knees, gasping, the world spinning around him. Sarai screamed his name and ran to him. Rage and despair twisted together in her heart. She rose, her pendant glowing brighter than ever before. "You will not touch him again," she cried. The air exploded with light. Waves of energy burst from her body, sweeping across the chamber. The rebels were thrown back as if struck by a storm. The crystal core responded to her power, flaring to life again, flooding the room with blinding brilliance. When the light faded, the rebels were gone. Silence filled the air. Sarai fell to her knees beside Ethan, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, please stay with me," she whispered, pressing her glowing hands against his wound. He could barely speak. You're safe. That's what matters." "Don't say that," she said, her voice breaking. "Don't you dare." The glow from her pendant pulsed faster, her tears shimmering as they fell onto his face. "You came into my world by accident," she whispered. "But you became its heartbeat." Ethan tried to smile, but his strength was fading. "Guess that means I belong here." Sarai held him close, her energy flowing into him, refusing to let the light inside him fade. Outside, the battle ended, but within the princess's heart, a war far greater had begun, a battle between love and loss, between duty and the fear of being alone again. And as the night fell silent over Valora, the Princess of Light held the broken human in her arms, whispering to him over and over, as if her voice alone could keep him alive. "Don't leave me, Ethan. Not now. Not ever." Ethan woke to a strange, gentle warmth. It wasn't sunlight, more like a soft energy that hummed quietly through his veins. When his eyes opened, the world was blurry, painted in silver and blue. He lay in a crystal chamber surrounded by floating lights, each one pulsing softly like a heartbeat. His body felt heavy, but the pain was gone. He turned his head slightly. Sarai sat beside him, her face pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She hadn't slept. Her hand rested on his, her thumb brushing against his skin as if she was afraid he might vanish if she stopped touching him. "You're awake?" she whispered, voice trembling. Ethan tried to speak, but his throat felt dry. Where am I?" "In the healing chamber," she said softly. "You've been here for 3 days. The wound was too deep for our healers. I used my energy to keep your heart alive." Her voice broke at the last words. "I thought I lost you, Ethan." He looked at her, still weak but trying to smile. "You saved me again." Sarai shook her head. "No, you saved me first. You stood in front of the blast knowing it could kill you." "Why?" Ethan paused. His gaze drifted toward the glowing ceiling, where soft blue light rippled like waves. "Because I couldn't watch you fall," he said quietly. "You gave me everything when I had nothing. You showed me kindness when your world wanted me gone. If my life meant protecting you, then it was worth it." Her breath caught. The words pierced her heart like light through glass. She wanted to be strong to keep her royal calm, but tears still filled her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You've changed something inside me. Since you came through that portal, my heart has never been the same." Ethan smiled faintly. "Guess your world's not the only one that changed." For a long time, silence filled the chamber. Only the low hum of the healing crystals echoed around them. Sarai reached out, touching his face with trembling fingers. His warmth beneath her touch made her heart ache with both relief and fear. "The council wants you gone," she said finally. "They say the portal will open again soon, and you must return to your world. They think you bring danger, that your presence breaks our balance." Ethan's expression softened. He looked down at their joined hands. "Maybe they're right," he said quietly. "Your people almost died because of me." "No," she said sharply, shaking her head. "They attacked because of fear, not truth. And I will not let fear decide your fate." Her words carried fire, but underneath the strength, Ethan saw something else, a deep sorrow she was trying to hide. He sighed softly. "Sarai, I don't belong here. I'm not like you. This world, it's beautiful, but it's not mine." Her hand tightened around his. "Then let me make it yours." He looked into her eyes, speechless. Her voice trembled, but her gaze didn't waver. "Since I was born, everything in my life was chosen for me. My path, my duties, even who I could love. But when you appeared, everything changed. You were not meant to be here, yet my heart chose you." Ethan's chest ached with emotion. "Sarai, you said you came through the portal by accident," she whispered. "Maybe it wasn't an accident at all. Maybe the universe brought you to me because it knew I needed you." Her words silenced him. For a moment, the pain of separation, the fear of loss, and the strange beauty of their bond wrapped around them like invisible light. He reached up and touched her cheek gently. "If I stay, your world will keep fighting me. If I go, I'll lose you. Sarai closed her eyes, a single tear sliding down. Then I'll fight my own world, she said. I won't let them take you away. The chamber lights flared brighter as if responding to her emotions. The healing crystals pulsed with her energy, wild, unrestrained, full of feeling. Ethan sat up slowly, his strength returning. He cupped her face in his hands. Sarai, if I stay, it has to be for the right reason, not because you pity me or fear being alone. She met his gaze, her voice barely above a whisper. It's not pity, Ethan. It's love. The words hung between them, fragile and powerful. Ethan's heart raced. He had heard those words before, back on Earth, in another life. But they had never felt this pure, this real. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against hers. You're making it hard to go home, he murmured. Her lips trembled. Then don't. For a long time they stayed like that, lost in the quiet rhythm of their hearts, surrounded by light and silence. Outside, Valora was healing. But inside, the chamber, two souls found something far greater than peace. They found belonging. Yet, even in that moment of stillness, a soft rumble echoed through the halls. The energy readings of the city spiked again. The portal was awakening. Sarai's eyes widened in fear. It's opening, she whispered. The council will come for you soon. Ethan turned toward the glowing horizon outside the crystal window. The light of the portal shimmered faintly in the distance, calling him home. But his hand refused to leave hers. Then they'll have to go through both of us, he said quietly. Sarai smiled, tears glimmering in her eyes. Then so be it, my human. And for the first time since the day he arrived, Ethan didn't feel lost between worlds. He felt chosen. The sky above Valora burned with golden light. The portal had awakened. Again, an enormous ring of shimmering energy suspended above the horizon, pulsing with power. It called to Ethan like a whisper from home, a reminder of everything he had lost, and everything he had to give up if he stayed. The council gathered in the grand hall, their expressions cold and final. Soldiers lined the walls, their weapons glowing faintly. Sarai stood before them, her white and gold robes fluttering in the wind of the portal's hum. Ethan stood beside her, weak but determined, refusing to let them send him away without a word. Human, the eldest counselor spoke, his voice echoing through the chamber. The gateway to your world is open. It will remain so for 1 hour. You must return. Your presence disturbs the balance of Valora. Ethan said nothing at first. He could feel Sarai trembling beside him. She tried to stand tall, her crown glinting under the light, but her hands clenched into fists. With respect, Ethan began softly, I never asked to be here, but I didn't bring war or hate. I only tried to help. You helped destroy our peace, another counselor replied sharply. The rebels rose because of you. Sarai stepped forward, her voice fierce. No, the rebels rose because they feared change, because they could not accept that kindness can come from beyond the stars. The hall fell silent. Her words echoed with fire. The counselor stared at her, then turned to Ethan. You have her heart, human, but our world cannot be built on this attachment. Go before your presence costs her crown. Ethan looked at Sarai, the woman who had risked everything for him. He saw the tears she tried to hide, the pain she carried behind her royal calm. He wanted to speak, but his throat tightened. Sarai, he whispered. She looked at him with a broken smile. You have to go, don't you? He swallowed hard. If I stay, your world will suffer. They'll blame you. I can't be the reason for that. Her voice trembled. And if you go, my world will lose its light. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The portal roared louder, casting waves of blue light that filled the chamber. Ethan felt its pull, an invisible thread tugging at his very soul. He turned back to her. I came through that portal by accident, but you made me want to stay. You showed me beauty, strength, love. His voice broke slightly. But maybe loving you means letting you live free of the chaos I bring. Sarai's eyes shone with tears. You talk as if love is a burden, she whispered. It's not, it's a gift. You gave me hope when I had none. You taught me what it means to feel. Ethan reached out and held her face gently, memorizing every detail. The soft glow of her skin, the tremble of her lips, the faint hum of her heartbeat beneath his fingers. If there was a way, he said softly, I'd stay with you forever. She placed her hand over his heart. Then promise me you'll never forget me. Promise me that even if our worlds are galaxies apart, your heart will still reach for mine. He smiled faintly, tears finally spilling down his cheeks. That's one promise I'll never break. The council stepped forward, signaling it was time. The guards lowered their weapons, forming a path toward the shining portal. Ethan turned slowly, his hand still in hers. Ethan, she whispered. Wait. He stopped, turning to face her one last time. Her pendant, the one that had glowed since the day they met, shone with a fierce, blinding light. She took it off and pressed it into his hand. This carries a piece of my heart, she said. Wherever you go, it will keep you safe. He held it tightly, unable to speak. Then, with one last look, he leaned forward and kissed her forehead. It was soft, trembling, filled with everything words couldn't say. Goodbye, Sarai. She closed her eyes, her voice barely audible. No, not goodbye, just until the stars meet again. Ethan stepped toward the portal. The light surrounded him, rising in spirals of energy. He looked back one last time. She stood there, a lonely figure bathed in gold, her tears catching the light like falling stars. And then he was gone. The chamber fell silent. Only the faint echo of the portal remained before it finally vanished, sealing the worlds apart once more. Sarai stood there long after everyone had left, staring at the empty air where he had disappeared. Her heart ached in silence, but there was no regret. He had come to her world like a spark in the dark, and even if he was gone, his light remained. Days turned to weeks. Valora healed, slowly, beautifully. The people rebuilt, the skies cleared, and peace returned. But at night, Sarai would stand on the highest tower, her eyes lifted to the stars, whispering softly into the wind. And far across the cosmos, on a quiet night on Earth, Ethan would look at the same sky, clutching her glowing pendant close to his heart. The light pulsed faintly, alive, warm, eternal. He smiled through the quiet and whispered into the dark, I'll find you again. And somewhere in the infinite stars, the Princess of Light whispered back, I'll be waiting, my human.